Podcast. Today is Thursday, January 18th, and I am excited to be bringing the third video in my series about my Make 9 2024 boards. So if you've joined me for my past two videos, the first one highlighted 9 whips, works in progress, that I would like to finish or put some work into this year. The second board is new projects that I would like to work on, and some of them hopefully complete, maybe all of them. That would be great. And then the third board today is strictly devoted to socks, which is probably my very favorite thing to knit. So I had to have one board just for all of the beautiful sock patterns out there. And I probably could make, 5 boards of different sock patterns, but I have to start somewhere, so I'm limiting it to 9 sock projects to kind of guide my focus this year with my sock knitting. So we will get started. So Make 29 2024, the socks that I would like to make. The first sock pattern, and I will share the yarns that I am thinking about using for these projects as well. So the first sock pattern is a fairly new sock pattern. It came out towards the end, I believe, of 2023, fall of 2023. And it is the Planting Seed Socks by Brenda, who has the Night Owl Fibers podcast with her daughter. On Instagram, she is Brenda K2P2, and she has an Etsy shop where she sells her sock patterns. And so I was really excited. She currently has 2 in there, but she is working. She has ideas for more, so I'm really excited to see what comes, Brenda. But the first one is Planting Seeds Socks, which I will put in here. And this is the yarn that I am thinking about using for it. So this is Woolberry Fiber Co. This was part of her, I think, Anne of Green Gables collection. I know I got it last year in the puffed sleeves colorway. So it's this pretty blue and it has those gorgeous speckles in them. And then this contrasting creamy mini. I think I might, I don't know if I would do just the cuff. I don't know, heels and toes that are in light color yarn tends to get a little messy, dirty. My house is a little dusty. So, I mean, it would be better as the cuff, but we will see. This yarn is 80% merino, 20% nylon. It is very soft and squishy. And I should have said, on this board, I do have a selection of fingering weight, DK weight, worsted weight sock patterns. So a good variety for this year. But that is one of the sets that I'm considering. Also for this one, I am considering this one. This is Sarah's Crochet Crafts. And I got this last fall. It is a Gilmore Girls inspired colorway. It's called Coffee, Coffee, Coffee. And the little mini is called Oi with the Poodles. And I just think that is a beautiful, beautiful color too. So one of these hopefully will become the Planting Seed Socks. Number 2 is also a pattern by Brenda, and I will link her Etsy shop down below. And the sock set that I'm considering using is also from Woolberry Fiber Co. and again from her Anne of Green Gables collection in the Raspberry Cordial colorway. And I really, really love this color. Again, we have a really light color mini. It's more of a really pale peach color. That's what it looks like to me. So probably cuff, maybe the toe. not sure, but that is the sock skein that I'm considering using for the Popping Bubbles socks. I hope I had said that pattern before, but I think that's really beautiful. So I would like to have some more, I guess I would say, neutral socks in my sock drawer. And to me, I'm considering this a neutral because it would go with several things that I own and wear. A lot of my socks are, you know, very variegated sock yarn or self-striping or highly speckled, which I don't mind wearing socks that don't match with my outfit. But I was thinking it might be nice to have some that were maybe a little more, gosh, I don't know, just neutral. I will say that again. So I think this is pretty much a tonal yarn too. This one, while it does have some speckles, it does have quite a few speckles there, I still think that is a little more on the subdued side. So you're going to see a lot of more simpler colors, I think, for my socks this year. All right, number 3. The pattern is the Country Cabin Socks by This Yellow Farmhouse. This is a worsted weight sock pattern, and I do have 2 different colors of wool of the Andes tweed, which I am considering for this pattern. So I have, let's see, this is burdock heather. So I don't know exactly how it's reading on the camera, but it's kind of a plummy purple colorway, kind of a, yeah, I would say a little bit of a plummy purple tweed. So this is 100%, no, I take that back. It's 80% Peruvian Highland wool, 20% Donegal tweed. I would be wearing these mostly for house socks, so they would not be out and about in shoes and getting the wear and tear. So I feel comfortable, you know, making it with a non-nylon. The other color, I really love this. This is Garnet Heather, and again, it's the same. It's Knit Picks wool of the Andes tweed. So I think that is really pretty. And I do have another sock pattern coming up, so it's going to go between these 2 for either one of these. All right, moving right along. Number 4 is the Michigan Lakeshore Socks by Dawn Friske. I think that's correct, Dawn Friske. So in this case, the yarn came first. This is by Dye Mad Yarns, and the colorway is actually Lake Michigan. So she dyed yarns for a Great Lake set. So she has colorways for each of the 5 Great Lakes, and it is such a beautiful, beautiful skein of yarn. And this would be a very nice neutral to have in my sock wardrobe, you know, just a singular color. I have lots of dark blues that I wear. I have lots of tops that are dark blues, dark greens. So I think this would work really, really well. So the pattern, I had the Michigan yarn, so I'm like, okay, I'm gonna just see if there's any Lake Michigan sock patterns, and lo and behold, Michigan Lakeshore Socks. So it's a free pattern. I should have been saying this all along. This one is a free pattern. The first 3 were paid for patterns. And so it has an all over lacy texture, mimicking the waves and the shore by the lake. So I think that would be really fun to work up and keep your interest when you're using, you know, a darker, you know, more tonal color yarn. So that is number 4. Number 5 is called the Indulgence Socks by ZwitchZ, and it calls for a fingering and lace held together. So these I'm most uncertain about, just with the gauge. just to see how this will work up. But it calls for US 1.5 or US 2.5 and fingering and lace. And I knew with mohair that was probably going to be too itchy on my feet. I do have mohair sweaters, and that's okay, but I'm just not sure I would want that on my feet. So I chose Surrey alpaca, which is still a lace weight, and hopefully would not be too thick and still would work with the gauge. But these are the two yarns that I'm thinking of putting together, and they are both So Happy Jane. This one is called Shell Seeker, and so you can see there is a lot more going on in that one. But for a fuzzy pair of socks, yeah, that's gonna just be in the house socks. And when I put this with it, that would tone some of the speckles down. So this is, let's see, does it have a colorway? Rose Gold, yes. And this is just so soft. So it's the Baby Surrey Alpaca and 26% Mulberry Silk. I am a little nervous because of the alpaca, because normally I am a little more sensitive to alpaca. So this one is definitely going to be an experiment to see about gauge with the socks and to see if my feet like this material. I mean, just feeling it now, it just feels wonderful. All right, the next sock pattern is another worsted weight sock pattern, and this is the Pumpkin Patch Cabin Socks, also by this yellow Farmhouse. So two worsted weight sock patterns by this yellow Farmhouse. And again, I would choose either of these, you know, so one will go for one of her socks, this will go for the other pattern. This past fall, I did already make the Pumpkin Patch Cabin Socks, and I think they turned out really, really nice. They fit very well. And I love the cable detail on these. I love the tweed, and I love how fast they knit up. So I am excited to do this sock pattern again. This video is going very, very fast. All right, number 7. The pattern is Sunshine on My Feet by the Kitchen Sink Shop. And I've had this in my Ravelry library for some time. And I had one skein of yarn picked out to go with it, but because it is a pattern and that yarn's a little bit more variegated, I thought maybe that wouldn't work so well. And then one of my swap partners from our Advent swap sent me this beautiful skein of yarn, kind of the perfect color for Sunshine on My Feet. And because it's a tonal, it's going to show the texture beautifully. So this is by Whimsy Stitches Yarn Co. and it's in the golden yellow colorway. This is a DK weight sock, and this is a DK sock yarn, 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon. And so I think that is going to be a super fun pop of color for a cute little pair of socks. The next pattern, I've had this sock skein set in my stash for quite some time. I'm sure some of you are familiar with the Hey Sister Yarn Company. There used to be a Hey Sister podcast, and they dyed yarn. And so I have this set. So this is kind of a, I guess, kind of a rosy lavender, and it has a little bit of speckling in it. And then it comes with 2 minis. And I would like to use this in the Waiting for Henry socks, which is by Tabitha Gandy, who is one half of the Hey Sister Yarn Company, or one half of the Hey Sister podcast. So they dyed the yarn, and then she wrote a pattern, a colorwork sock pattern, while she was waiting for her baby Henry. And so I do not have a whole lot of experience with colorwork socks. I think I've only done one pair before, but I've had this sock set and I thought it would be really perfect to go with this pattern. So I definitely want to try this out this year. All right, that brings us to number 9. So this is also in my library right now. So this one is a paid for pattern. This is the Homebody Socks by This Handmade Life. This calls for a fingering and mohair silk. And again, similar to what I talked about earlier, I don't want to hold that mohair with a fingering weight. So I'm going with a baby Surrey alpaca, Surrey silk. So I have these 2 yarns. This one has been in my stash for so many years. This is by Yarn Cafe Creations, such an old label. The colorway is Dig Dug. It was one of a kind. And I don't know if she named it. I mean, in my mind, I was thinking Dig Dug, that was a video game I used to play, you know, many, many years ago. But I just thought the colors in it were so pretty. And then I'm going to pair it with this Surrey Silk by Suburban Stitcher. And this is in the Rosewood colorway. So I'm kind of anxious to see how those will pair together and look. Although this would be really beautiful in its own sock by itself. So we will see. All right, I have one more bonus pattern because I thought I was all set with the 9, and then I saw on the Yarn It Heidi podcast a finished pair of socks that she made that I absolutely fell in love with. So these are the Hedwig socks by the Lopsided Crafter, and I chose this picture because I think it showed the eyes of the owl the best. So I know it's an incomplete sock, but I hope you can see the eyes of the owl are done with beads. So for this sock, I am considering 2 different skeins. I do have this leftover, I shouldn't say leftover, it's nearly a full skein, but I used this for toes and cuffs in a pair of socks last year. And this is Knit Picks. I think it's Hawthorne fingering in the graffiti speckle. So I thought that could be a pretty nice neutral to use for the owl socks. But also I have this skein, which has been in my stash for many years too. And this is really beautiful with lavenders and blues. There's almost a faint little hint of green, but it reads, I think, mostly lavender and gray blue. This is by Fuzzy Cactus Yarn in the Full Moon colorway. You can see I've opened it up a couple times, so it's not looking its most pristine, but it is a very pretty colorway. So I think that would be a really nice one too. And you know, I'm just envisioning the eyes with like a pretty blue or a pretty purple bead for those owl eyes. So I think that could be super fun. So 9 different sock patterns to choose from this year. So this doesn't even take into account like the vanilla socks that I want to do. And so when I say vanilla socks, you are just following the same sock recipe where you do your cuff, you do your leg, you do your heel that you like to do, you do your foot, you do your toe that you like to do, but there's no specific patterning to it. There's no texture stitches, there's no lace. So I'm still intending to do some plain vanilla socks, you know, with some of the more colorful skeins up here. But I would like to focus on these. I'm really excited about these sock patterns, and I really like that I have a variety of weights and types of socks. You know, there are some fingering weight socks with lace texture, with texture on them. There are worsted weight socks with cables, DK weight socks, basically whether you're using, you know, fluff with a fingering or, you know, by itself, and a colorwork sock. So a good variety of sock patterns to work on this year. So tell me below, you know, what sock pattern stood out to you the most. What one would you cast on first? I have not cast any of these on. Probably a couple reasons. I wanted to show you the yarns in their full skeins before I caked them up. And my daughter Jenna has been home from college, and she was using our craft room to make slime. So it really wasn't a good yarn winding station. I didn't want to get yarn with slime. So she has gone back to school. So I'm anxious to wind some yarn up for sock projects and also for some other projects on my Make 9 boards. So I'd be curious, what sock pattern would you choose for me to cast on first? And I would love to hear what your 2024 knitting plans are. Did you make a Make 9 board? How is that going? Or are you just focusing on those whips? Or do you have tons of new projects that you want to cast on? Please let me know, you know, what are your knitting plans or what you're working on, knitting or crocheting. I would love to hear that. If you'd like to follow me other places, I am cbcraftygirl on Instagram and Ravelry. I will be back hopefully next week with a regular podcast where I will have several finished objects to show you, and I will probably have some new projects started next week. So you'll get to see what I've been up to and what projects I am choosing to work on. So thank you so much for following me with this 3-part video series. It has been so much fun making these videos and just sharing with you my thoughts and my plans. It has felt really good for myself to organize myself in this way. So if there are other types of videos you would like to see from me, please leave that in the comments down below. I'm wondering if you would like to see all of the socks I've knit, all of the sweaters I've knit, all of the shawls I've knit, or we could take a tour of my yarn shelf here and share what yarns I have in there. So let me know if that's something you might be interested in. So I hope you all are doing well. Our year is off to a good start in January, so I hope you are all doing well, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.